America's apparently clear military victory in Afghanistan was not so clear-cut to Paul Thompson.
The war ended very quickly, but in the end, the U.S. was only able to capture or kill one major al-Qaeda figure and no Taliban figures.
You know, the fact is right now today, we don't have any high-ranking Taliban or al-Qaeda. We haven't really captured anybody, one or two on the fringe.
His understanding of the government's actions before 9/11 now fundamentally changed. Thompson decided to take a similar look into what happened in Afghanistan.
The press never looked very closely at how so many of these leaders were able to escape. However, if you piece together a number of different news accounts, you can begin to understand the story.
Early November, the London Times reported bin Laden's closest advisors all escaped in a late-night convoy from the Afghan capital of Kabul. An eyewitness reported, "We don't understand how they weren't all killed the night before, because they came in a convoy of at least 1,000 cars and trucks. It must have been easy for American pilots to see the headlights." By the 10th, bin Laden had joined the convoy in Jalalabad. An intelligence official told Night Rider newspapers it was obvious that this area was to be the base for an exodus to Pakistan. We were amazed that nothing was done to prepare for it. On November 14th, the Northern Alliance captured Jalalabad. That night, 1,000 fighters and a convoy of several hundred vehicles escaped again, this time with bin Laden, driving hours to the fortress in Tora Bora. The U.S. bombed the nearby Jalalabad airport, but apparently did not attack the convoy. November 15th, at the cave complexes of Tora Bora, an estimated 1,600 of bin Laden's fighters are now surrounded. The most important battle of the war begins.
U.S. warplanes are keeping a close eye on mountain passes. U.S. Special Forces are working with Pakistani troops on the border to block possible escape routes.
While there were two main escape routes, Newsweek reported that the U.S. bombed only one. Using the other route, hundreds of al-Qaeda and Taliban, including senior leaders, escaped. In the wake of the attacks, eyewitnesses told Britain's The Daily Telegraph that they were shocked that the U.S. had surrounded Tora Bora only on 3 sides. Bin Laden walked out of the Tora Bora cave complex and into Pakistan with a number of loyal followers.
Of course we're after Saddam Hussein, bin Laden. He's isolated.
In August 2005, a story broke that gave Paul Thompson a missing piece of the puzzle. In an exclusive interview with Newsweek, the CIA field commander in Tora Bora during the invasion, Gary Burnson, broke his silence. He explained that his intelligence operatives had tracked bin Laden to Tora Bora.
Mr. Bernstein feels so strongly about getting this story out and getting his book published that he actually resigned 2 years short of retirement from the CIA in order to publish his book.
At the time of this interview, he was required to speak through his attorney until the CIA cleared his book for publication.
At various points in time, they did have, to my understanding, definitive intelligence as to his general location within Tora Bora. I can't go into detail as to the actual sources of the intelligence and the collection methods because those remain classified. However, we had Osama Bin Laden essentially cornered in Tora Bora, and for whatever reasons, we did not do what was necessary in order to ensure that he did not escape.
The goal has never been to get bin Laden. Obviously, that's desirable. It's interesting. I just read a piece by some analysts that said you may not want to go after the top people in these organizations. You may have more effect by going after the middle managers because they're harder to replace.
Toward the end of the war, when all eyes were on Tora Bora, the news media missed another major story. Again, thousands of Taliban and al-Qaeda escaped without drawing U.S. fire, this time from the northern city of Konduz.
The Taliban's only stronghold in the region has all but fallen to the forces of the Northern Alliance.
Once again, the door was left open for escape.
Our side in that battle had the enemy surrounded. There were a reported perhaps 8,000 enemy forces in there.
Oh, they had the cream of the crop of al-Qaeda caught.
Journalist Seymour Hersh later broke this story in the New Yorker magazine, briefly sparking TV news coverage.
And from there, all of a sudden, one night around Thanksgiving, in the middle of the siege, an air corridor was set up between Konduz and northern Pakistan. And at night, Pakistani relief planes regularly flew through that corridor.
It was a very orderly, organized thing that armed men would stand on the tarmac waiting for a flight that would come in, and then they would be taken out.
Killed as many as 4,000 or 5,000. They were not only al-Qaeda, but maybe even some of bin Laden's immediate family were flown out on those evacuations.
It had to be done with the blessing of Musharraf, didn't
Exactly, and of the United States.
When I tell you it comes at the level of Don Rumsfeld, it has to.
What we're describing here is something which would clearly be noticed by the United States. One or two, maybe not, okay? An airlift of these proportions, it certainly would.
This is the most secure space on the face of the earth right now. If someone's moving over Afghanistan, the United States knows about it, clearly.
No plane could fly from Konduz to Pakistan without getting shot down unless we let it happen. And we let it happen, and I think there's just no other way to explain it.
My take on it basically is the fact that there is some sort of a deal in place between the government of Pakistan and the United States